Welcome to another episode of Growth Hacker TV. I'm Bronson Taylor, and today I have Steli Efti with us. Steli, thanks for coming on the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me tell people a little bit about you. You are the CEO and co-founder of Close.io, and we'll talk about that at the end a little bit. Also, you're the CEO and co-founder of Elastic Sales, where you've helped hundreds of venture-backed startups, people like Foursquare, General Assembly, household names. You've helped them scale their sales efforts. You're the startup sales guru, I think. Is that fair?
So some people call me that. Yeah.
Yeah. Your name has come up more than once whenever sales is talked about, and in these circles. Steli, the name just kind of pops up. So people have heard your lectures, they've read your stuff, they use your products. I think you're the guy for startup sales. So let's dig into startup sales. Let's start right there.
Let's do it.
Startups and selling. First, the question I have is, do startups actually grow through sales? Because when I think about sales, I think about these, Fortune 500 companies. I think about, I don't know, just these guys sitting around in a phone room, just, old school 1980s, hammering it out. And all the hype right now is around content marketing, pay-per-click, digital marketing. So sales isn't even in the discussion for a lot of founders, I don't think. So do startups actually grow through sales?
Fuck yeah. Well, first of all, I forgot to ask you if it's okay for me to curse on the show.
You can do whatever you want.
All right on. So absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's two distinctions. Number one, I think on a philosophical level, as an entrepreneur, you're always selling, right? First of all, you have to sell yourself on your idea. Then you have to start selling others to join your company and buy into your vision. You have to sell investors to invest money. You have to sell the press to write about you and find you interesting. You have to sell constantly. You might not think of it as selling. You might not be putting on a suit and tie and be like drinking coffee out of a cup and be like, I'm a sales guy. But you're always in the business of influencing others, hopefully positively, in buying into your vision, mission, and transacting with you in one way or another and helping you accomplish what you want. So from that perspective, any founder in any area, anywhere, is always selling in one way or another, if you're conscious or aware of it or not. I think more tactically, this is true for B2B startups. So, of course, if you're building online games and your growth is built on virality and things like that, you might not be picking up the phone and closing deals all day long, although you might have to make money eventually and sell advertisement. But that's a different story. But there are certain things that are very kind of end consumer focused, and you might not need a sales force or thinking about sales at the early days. But if you're in B2B, if you sell your technology, your software to other businesses, you have to master the sales game from day one, because that's how you're going to be acquiring lots of your customers in most cases.
Yeah, so let's dig into that. Because even B2B startups, it may not be on the radar as fully as it should be. Are you saying that if you're in a B2B startup, you should be thinking about sales on day one, and you have to figure out how to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I want to say is, don't be afraid of it and don't be intimidated. And sales might not be what you think it is. Right. So as you said, I think sales is not the most glamorous, job or activity in the world, and for good reason. Like there have been a lot of abuses in that area. There's a certain kind of image. I always like to use the Wolf of Wall Street as a mental model of like, is this the type of person I have to be successful in sales? And the answer is absolutely no. I don't know, maybe in the financial industry or on Wall Street or somewhere else, but when it comes to startups, you can't just be out there with a mindset of like killing your customers, right? And like dominating them into submission and buying whatever, and then you become rich and you leave your customers empty-handed. That doesn't work. You need to make your customers successful. You need to create value, because otherwise you're not going to survive. You're so tiny, and there's no hill to run towards. Yeah. So the thing that I hear myself, the kind of advice that I hear myself give a lot, especially to like engineering-driven startup teams and people that are very technical, is that sales is not complicated. And you don't have to be super outgoing or super communicative or anything like that to be really effective in sales. Sales is really nothing else than result-driven communication. It's about communicating in a way that's effective, that leads to a certain outcome. And I always tell people it doesn't even matter if you got a yes or a no. Both are actually good. Both are clear results that you can learn from and move on to. The thing that's killing startups is the maybes. It's the unclear. We're not sure. They kind of like it, but they haven't yet made a move, and we're going to wait and pray for something to happen and always unclear about the outcome. That's what's killing companies and startups, not people told us a clear no. So sales at its core is nothing else than communicating with people and driving them to a certain result. Either they tell you yes or no, and that's really simple to do if you can overcome your fears. So it's not rocket science, but it's something that's absolutely crucial to any startup.
No, that right there is already the quote of the episode: results-driven communication. That's it. I mean, that sums up sales so well. And in a minute, we're going to talk about how a startup can actually put together a sales process and the way you see it. But first, give us some examples. What are some startups that just have been killing it with sales that do it right?
So it's always I can tell you what I can tell you in most examples, it's things I hear from investors, things I hear from other employees.
That's fine.
So
just whet our appetite. Give us something.
So one company, there's a bunch of them. So one that's very much written about and hyped about recently in the press is Zenefits, for instance, kind of being coined one of the fastest growing SaaS companies, and having they grew. I don't know the numbers, but they grew in incredible numbers very, very fast. And David Sachs, who sold Yammer and was ex-PayPal guy, who's I don't know if a billionaire, but multi-millionaire, really successful investors, joined as CEO just recently. That was a big coup. And they grew massively through sales and through building a really world-class sales organization. And that's just one example. There's most companies that are in B2B, if they're really successful and growing really fast, usually there's a sales force behind it. There are exceptions to that rule, but they're so hard. They're just such few cases where I could think of in B2B a company becoming massively successful without being great at sales.
Okay, because everybody hearing this, they don't want to do sales, so they're going to say, I'm the exception. Like, I'm that one company that doesn't actually have to do it, right?
Of course.
So tell us, who is that exception, so that way everybody just knows they're not it. Know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a really good point. So two things to that. Number one, the only exceptions that I can think of, and that's not even clear B2B companies, but let's think of Dropbox, right? Dropbox is a B2C company, but they're also really successful in the enterprise and in business. That company is just unstoppable because the product is just at the core one where once you start really using it, there's no turning back, right? You just it's like crack.
It should have been a part of the operating system.
Yes, exactly.
They built something that just should have been there at the beginning.
Yeah. But it's funny that and I didn't plan to say this, but we mentioned Zenefits and David Sachs from Yammer joining. That's relevant because a lot of times people tell me, yes, we're in B2B, but we're not going to need sales as much because we're going to follow the Yammer model. Because Yammer had this there was this myth of Yammer. That was their strategy at the beginning, was to say, we're going to grow in the enterprise from the bottom up. We're going to have all these users for free, sign up, and then we're going to knock on the door from the enterprise and tell them, hey guys, look, you have 30,000 of your employees already on our platform. If you want control over that, pay us money. And in most cases, we're not going to even have to knock on any doors. The enterprise will come to us and ask us for permission to pay us money to get control over what's going on. That was what Yammer was kind of promoting as their strategy for viral growth in the enterprise. And that idea is so compelling that founders still to this day believe that that's a viable way to grow, right? Yammer sold for over $1 billion, must have been successful. If you actually pay attention and you hear David Sachs in recent interviews, he's told in a couple of stages, I think TechCrunch Disrupt or some other big event, he himself said that model never worked. And it was one of the most surprising things that after a while they figured out they have to build a sales force and they have to go and approach the enterprise just like any other company. Yes, they had a better product that was more successful in penetrating the end users, but they still had to sell it. And that was something that the myth is so strong and compelling that people haven't noticed that it never actually worked.
Yeah, I have a hunch even, and David doesn't fall in this category, but that the companies that do grow through sales, they don't necessarily tell you that's how they grew because it's so unglamorous and it feels like they cheated. It feels like, oh, we just went directly to them and made them buy it. It feels like they didn't come to us. They didn't just spread it word of mouth. It didn't go viral. And so I wonder how many companies grow through sales and then act like that their blog matters. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and not to say that nothing else matters, but sales. I mean, even even Jessica Livingston from Y Combinator, one of the founders and partners there, she wrote a blog post where she wrote that for what is more important for startups, sales or marketing, and she clearly said sales. Wow. And this is surprising. None of the partners at YC are salespeople, right? They're all highly
product people.
Product people, right? Yeah. So you wouldn't think of YC partners telling you that sales is important, but it is. It's one of these things that's not glamorous, it's not sexy, it's not push this button and that button or architect some viral coefficient and then see things explode and just lean back in your office. And no, it's the grind, going out there, calling people, showing up at people's offices, actually doing the work that's not glamorous that makes the difference.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. All right, so here's one of the big questions I have. We're going to dig into how to set up sales in a startup and that kind of stuff in a second. That's the big teaser because that's what everybody wants to, like, okay, what do we do, you know? But the question that I think to answer first is the question of the founder. How much should the founder be involved in the sales process? Because I go back and forth personally. There's a part of me that says I should be right in the middle of it, at least at first, so I can learn. So I can, get in front of my customers, learn what they're actually saying and not get it secondhand, learn how to actually close a deal and what objections I need to overcome. There's another part of me that says, I'm the founder. I got to get out of the system. I got to be the one working on the machine. And anytime I'm in the machine, I'm doing it wrong. So how do you see it? What's the role of the founder in the sales process?
That's such an excellent point. I'm so happy you bring this up. So my point of view on this is that in the early days, you have to be fully immersed and fully involved. There is no such thing as secondhand insights. And there's no such thing as outsourcing sales in the early days, right? So the crucial part here is not to perfect the sales process and to drive tiny little one-digit percentage efficiencies in the sales model. That's not the point of this. But the point of it is that in the early days, you need to figure out who your customer is, what he or she needs, what they care about, what objections they have. You need to listen and look the customer in the eyes while they're telling you this. You need to preferably be in their natural habitat, in their office or building, to see what other things affect their decisions, what their workday looks like, their workplace looks like, the desktop, other software that they're using looks like, to really get insights. That's the important thing, to understand who is my customer, how do I reach them, how do I find them, how do I fulfill their needs, how do I make them successful, what kind of language do I need to use, what kind of obstacles do I have to overcome. Those insights you can't outsource. You can't give that task to somebody else. Once you have those, and you've been able to actually drive some kind of positive results in a repeatable fashion, right? So you've figured out a little bit how to do this sales thing, and you can do it one month, and you can do the same activity, and it creates sort of the same results the next month. That's a good point to start bringing in more people in the company, kind of taking off the workload off your shoulders. And then eventually you want to hire some experts to take what you've built and perfect it and improve it and fine tune it.
That's when you optimize.
Yes, that's when you optimize, right? But in the early days, it's deadly to try to push off the task of sales to somebody else. They're not going to have the insights you have as a founder. They're not going to have the learnings you have as a founder. And that loss of data could mean the difference between a successful company and a failure.
Yeah, so sales does need to become a system. It does need to become a process. It does need to become a machine, not on day one. You need to figure out the not the local maximum, but the maximum, what thing just works, period, and then we'll optimize it with the experts, in the future. Okay, so the way you're describing it, it sounds like that sales actually doubles as customer development or product research. I mean, the line is so blurred, I don't really know which it is. I mean, is that right?
I mean, I think so. In the early days, a lot of lines are blurred in startups, right? It's not. They should, right? They should, because you don't want to hire 100 people for all little tasks.
Yeah, you got 3 people doing everything.
Doing everything, right? So of course, sales at its core, as I said, is about driving a result, and the most important result for you in the early days is to turn people into customers, right? And then turning these customers into successful customers is also a really crucial thing. Lots of companies forget that. They sell to customers and sell and sell and sell, and then they struggle, and you ask them, hey, how many of your customers are truly insanely successful with your solution? And they look at you with a blank stare, and they're like, I don't know. Like, we're never cared about that. So that's definitely also crucial. And yeah, the lines are blurred between support, success, sales, customer development, product development, and it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't really matter. The core thing is to drive real results, yes or no outcomes in the early days through your activities, and not be stuck in that middle land of people really like what we're building. People gave us thumbs up. Like, people will think about it if we have this and this feature. Like, that world that lets your dream stay alive without actually manifesting that in reality. That's a really dangerous place to stay in too long, right?
Yeah.
So I do think that the lines are blurred. I think that's fine. And I think that in the early days, to come back to the point you made earlier, in the early days, it's just like with product development and MVP, you need to think of sales not as something you set up perfectly on day one and then it just runs. You need to be okay with the idea that this is going to be a constantly evolving system, and you want to start as simple as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get started and then improve. And you will never stop tweaking and improving as you grow and as you enter different stages of the company.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You know, I noticed online that you give away office hours, and knowing that you're a sales guru, when I see that you give away office hours, you know, I put two and two together. I think, is this Steli's way to kind of stay in the process, stay in touch with the customer, see what the new objections are? Is that what you use your office hours as, just to stay in touch with sales?
It's more than just that. So office hours have morphed into this thing that has a lot of benefits, and I'm sure there's much more karmic benefits that I don't get to see immediately.
Sure.
At least I like to operate and think that way. But the clear benefits that I see immediately are that we started as office hours as something to help our customers to be more successful, because we knew if we make our customers more successful in sales, they'll buy more of our software and they'll stay around longer, and it's just going to benefit us as well.
Sure.
And then we thought, why just limit this to our customers? Anyone out there that needs to be better at sales is somebody we want to help, and we know if we help them, they'll check out our software, they'll check out the other things that we have out there, and eventually many of them will become customers because we're really good stuff. Yeah. So today, office hours are a way for us to get customers. It's a way for us to build goodwill and thought leadership. It's a really great way to get content ideas. So a lot of the concepts that I have, a lot of the things we write about on our blog, and the things we teach, and we just published a book, many of these ideas come through interactions in office hours where somebody poses a challenge and we come together up with a solution, and then we think, wow, this could be useful for other people, since we now see that problem was solved, or the company comes back and tells us about all the great results they've seen. Yeah. So it's marketing, it's sales, it's thought leadership, it's being a good citizen on this planet. It's all of the above.
Isn't it funny how when you just connect with customers, it does so much good in so many ways? I mean, there's no way to not do that.
Yeah, there's just so much. You know, and I've given this advice to many people. Like, when you do a startup and you immerse yourself in that world, very quickly, after a while, you become an expert in a very small niche area of the world. And that's really valuable, and you can use that. And in our case, you know, when we launched Close.io, we looked at the sales software market and CRM market, and we knew it's so crowded, we're not going to outspend our competitors with bigger ad budgets or anything like that. And we want to build viral little gimmicks to grow faster than others. But we knew more about sales, and startup sales in particular, than anybody else in the space. So we thought, instead of outspending our competitors, we'll out-teach them. So that was kind of core part of our marketing strategy from day one, is let's just teach what we know that's going to make us stand out.
Yeah, no, that's great. All right, so let's say you walked into a startup, right? They've hired you as a consultant or whatever. You're one of the early employees to do sales, but you're in this startup for some reason. They're a B2B startup. They need sales. So let's just assume they're not, consumer facing, let's get 1 million downloads kind of startup. Where do you start? Give us some tactics. I know you said it's results-driven communication. What kinds of communication are we talking about? What kinds of experiments would you run at first? I mean, just give us an idea of what does this roadmap look like, so somebody watching this interview can go actually try something before the day's over. You know what I mean?
Right on. So one of the first things I would ask is, do we have any customer? Right? Do we have even one customer? If you don't have any customers, that needs to be our goal. The first two milestones that I would set is the first paying customer, then the 10th paying customer, and then seeing how many of those 10 customers can we make insanely successful, and successful to the degree where if we called them, they could tell us they're getting significantly more value out of the software product than they're paying us for it. Right? Not just, I like this, I'm a champion, I like the idea, but no, we're getting more money in value out of this than we're paying for it. Those would be the first milestones that I would set in the sales horizon. And the way that I would do that is very simple. At the earliest, you have to do whatever it takes, and you have to make your own life as easy as possible. So I would look at my immediate network, right? Who do we know that could buy? Who do we know who might know somebody that could buy, right? Investors, advisors, friends, ex-colleagues, ex-employers, your school, whatever, your neighborhood, anything and everything, your parents, like anyone is fair game. You need to make your life as easy as possible and find the easiest route to get to a few customers, even if that route is not scalable.
That's what I was going to ask, because that's the barriers but it's not scalable if I just go to my, but it doesn't need to be right now, does it?
It doesn't fucking matter. No, right now, all you're trying to do is figure out, have we built something, or are we trying to build something that anyone cares about? Would somebody care about it so much that they actually want to pay for it? And then can we actually deliver the success we're promising? If you can figure these things out with 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 customers, you'll find ways that scale later on. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
At the beginning, your life is hard enough by being tiny, nobody knows you, having something that's not quite ready yet. Don't make your life even harder by trying to set up something scalable from day one. Just go for the easy and low-hanging sales, right?
I like it.
So you do that. Once you do that, and that's hard enough, that means you call people, you drive to their homes or offices. You have to be out there, outside your office, right? Outside your comfort zone, and actually going for a result. Not just do you like the idea, but are you ready and willing to buy? Once you've got that down, when a startup tells us, yeah, we have a few paying customers yet, the next thing I would do, my next step, is get referrals. And this is something every company gets wrong. You think of most companies think of referrals as this nice to have thing they may or may not mention, and usually it goes something like this: hey, you bought now from us, this is exciting, do you know anyone else that might want to buy? 9 out of 10 times a customer will go, let me think about it, I'll come back to you later, and then people go, okay, cool.
So what should I do? Because that's what I do. So what's the right answer?
So what should you do? Here's my pitch to you. Once you ask somebody for a referral, and they tell you, and you should ask the moment they become a customer, and they tell you, let me think about this. You say, great. I'm sure that over the time you'll think of many, many people down the line as our partnership grows. Let's start with one name, one person you really like in this industry that should be aware we exist. Come on. What you do is you push one more time. You do it in a nice fashion, but you push one more time. It's an uncomfortable place to go. Most companies and people don't want to do that, especially not after they convince somebody to buy. They have this big win.
They want to go away. Yeah. They're relieved.
Yeah, they're like, I just created a win. I don't want to risk that by annoying somebody. Well, you're only going to create outcomes others don't if you go where others won't, right? So you have to push yourself outside your comfort zone. Do it in a nice way, but push one more time and go and tell somebody, come on, just one name. Let's do this. In my experience, if you push people just one more time, out of the 9 that told you they need to think about it, 4 or 5 will actually just give you a name, just by the mere fact that you pushed them. The other 4 or 5, they will just tell you, hey, dude, back off, in a nice or not so nice way. And then just put your hands on the air and go, fair enough, I wouldn't do my job if I didn't ask for one more time. Right? I'm looking forward to you connecting us whenever you think of somebody. I appreciate it. And you just leave them alone, right? Yeah. Here's what happens next. You actually make them refer you immediately. In an ideal world, you want to have a template for this. You don't want to create any work for the person that wants to refer you. You send them the template, and you tell them they can edit it, they can use it as verbatim, or they can write something of their own. Now, the next step is once you get a referral and you talk to somebody that came from a referral, and you actually convince them to buy, you converted them to a customer. The moment they become a customer, you have to close the feedback loop. You have to tell them, you know what? Isn't it awesome that we're going to be working together, getting all that value? Who is responsible for all this awesome stuff that's about to happen? Oh, I don't know. You know who connected us in the first place. Oh, Bob. Yes. Can you do me a favor? Can you take 1 minute right now, and I'll do the same, and send Bob a quick thank you email? And here's what happens. The moment the initial referrer gets feedback that it actually was a valuable connection, they'll immediately think of more people to connect you to and refer you to.
And then do you ask the referred person to then give you a referral also?
Yeah. Of
Just
course.
keep it going.
Keep it going while you're at it. And you know what? In some cases, you can make it part of the deal. You can tell people, hey, let's first explore if this is a good fit. And once you explore it is a good fit, you can tell them, listen, before I let you buy, I want to give you a fair warning. Right now, we're really small, and we're dedicating all our energy in building the best product and servicing our customers in incredible ways. That means we do no PR, no marketing, no nothing. We can only afford that if our happy and successful customers refer us to other businesses. Does that sound like a fair deal? Nobody ever says, no, I want you to spend all your time on marketing and PR and sales and not on servicing me and building amazing products for me. Nobody. So you make it part of the deal. Part of what they're buying into is not just the product, but also promising you that they're going to connect you with others if you actually do a great job for them.
Yeah.
This is not inbound sales. This is outbound. This is very much connecting with companies and people that haven't thought about you, haven't searched for you, and don't care about you in the moment that the connection happens. But it's the warmest way of outbound, and this is how you should start. Once you've done that a little bit, and that works, now you want to start looking at other ways to grow, right? And you can look at marketing and spending money on advertising and on inbound blog content, on cold calling, cold emails. There's a variety of things you can do, and you can look at depending on who your customer is, depending on how they typically buy, you can see how did other successful companies sell to these types of customers to see what are available channels for growth for us in sales. And then you pick the ones, typically I would recommend you the ones that seem the easiest or where you have the most talent already internally on the team, and you go after and you start experimenting, trying things and growing your sales process. But you always start simple. Your immediate network, you get a few customers, you get referrals from those customers. Once that ball is rolling, now you can think of bigger and better things to do.
Yeah. Does the big systemized process, is it just a bigger version of what you were doing on a small scale, or is it just a totally different animal? You know what I mean? Does the small thing grow into the big thing, or is it just a new stage now?
It usually is a little bit of both, right? So the lines are always a little blurred, but at its essence, all you do in sales is you look at leads, like who is our customer? Can we get people like that? Either to find them, to talk to them proactively, or to find them where they are looking for companies like us or solutions like us and present ourselves in front of them. But it's how do we generate leads, right? That's the core, the most important thing. Once you know that, then it's about how do we, now that we have those leads, how do we effectively communicate with them to convert them into customers?
So all the hustle we did at the low scale of just going out to your friends and network and that kind of thing, going to the referrals, all that's just teaching you who your customers really are. And then you're using that information to think, okay, where do these customers live? Where do I find these leads? And so even though the small thing may not become the big thing, it educated you about where to find the big thing. Is that right?
That's absolutely right.
Okay.
And in the process, it generates results. So startups live in this tough space where you want to build things that will really grow in the long term, but you also have to drive some short-term results to build momentum. You can't just be like, we're going to work on this perfect model. Don't worry, we're not going to have a single customer for 2 years, but then we're going to just push this button and it's going to explode, right? You have certain pressures. You have to have customers, revenue, show investors progress, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you have to make these choices between generating results in the here and now, while at the same time learning what's necessarily important to grow into your next stage.
Yeah.
And nothing is better than talking to your customers and really intimately learning about them. And you don't know who your customers are until people pay you money and until they tell you that it was worth it to pay you that money, right? Once you have those two things, you know now who your real customer is. People telling you they like it and they would need it, that's not customers. And people even paying you money because they buy into the promise of your service, but they're not getting any value out of it, that's not your customers either. Right?
No,
so you have to really figure that out. Once you figure that out, everything else is much easier.
So if one of the most important things is to learn about the leads from that early process so that you can go and find a bunch of them and create a scalable process, how important is it to have the right leads at the top of that funnel? It seems like if that was the main thing you got out of it, they need to be the right leads. So how important are leads? And then second, what are some of the symptoms that the leads are wrong? Maybe how can we know that we're going after the wrong people here, even when we thought we had the right leads?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. So most people, when they think about sales, they want to optimize the end of the funnel. They want to optimize the sales scripts and the pitch and the demo and the negotiation and the whatever. They want to negotiate.
Well, that's what we see on TV, right?
Right, yeah, and it's the sales skill, right? It's the how do we talk to customer, how do we negotiate with them, how do we close them, why we're not closing more. But it's the to optimize at the end of the funnel typically is wasted time at the beginning. Like those are the things that will drive slight improvements. But in most cases, the thing that will make you either successful or not is the quality and quantity of your leads and how those leads are growing, right? If you have amazing leads and they're growing in great percentages month over month, even if you're pretty bad at sales, you're gonna do okay. If you have no leads or very shitty leads, you can have the best sales team in the universe, and you're gonna be fucked, right? Because there's nothing to sell to. There's nobody to sell to, so it doesn't matter how good you are at selling.
Yeah.
So leads come before sales skills, sales process. It's really the lifeblood of your success. Yeah. So it's really important and that's why it's important to understand your customer, because your customer will determine who your leads are and where to get them. Excuse me. So leads are super crucial. Now, when it comes to the symptoms in terms of, how do we know that we have a problem, that our leads are really bad? Well, there's a couple of things that you can do. Typically, if we want to let's do a really simple funnel together, right? So let's say we have 100 leads. Let's even say they're coming to us, right? They're inbound leads, signups every month. So a simple 3-step funnel might be, 100 leads. We're reaching out to them. Let's say we call all of them. And then what is the actual rate at which we're able to make a connection and talk to somebody of those leads? So that's the reach rate. How many of those that we reach can we qualify? Like once we talk to somebody, like how many of these people, like we're selling a sales tool, how many of these people are clearly not in the market for a sales tool, have maybe confused what we are looking for something we can't provide, are at a stage, maybe it's Fortune 500 companies that need something for tens of thousands of employees, and we've built something for tiny SMB companies. Like, how many of those people are clearly not going to be able to buy today and get success from it, right? So what's the qualifying rate? And then out of the leads that are fully qualified, how many can we close? So when we look at those steps, if you have a very bad reach rate, that's a problem, right? If you have 100 signups that give you phone numbers, and then when you call all of them, you can't even have a conversation with one out of 100, you have a problem, right? And maybe it's a data problem. Maybe they'll give you wrong numbers. Maybe it's a process problem. You're not calling at the right time. Maybe these are all beta or bots or something, but it's not normal. Like even in bad cases, you'll have a 10-15% reach rate, even if you do outbound cold calling. So if the inbound leads, if you can't reach any of them, if nobody responds to you, that's a problem, right? You need to figure out what's going on here. Why are we having such issues? Once you talk to them, if you qualify a very low rate of the leads that are coming to you, that's a quality problem, right? So if I get 100 leads and only 1% of them or 5% of them are qualified to buy, I'm fucked. I'm actually only getting 5 leads a month, not 100, right? So now I need to think about why are these people coming to me that clearly shouldn't? Is my marketing wrong? Is my messaging wrong? Am I spending advertising dollars on the wrong things? Am I writing about the wrong things and have the wrong content strategy? Am I promoting my product somewhere that's not good? Like, where is the source of low quality leads? People coming to me, signing up for the product, they can never ever have any chance of success with it.
Yeah.
So a qualifying rate, reach rate, you would want on the inbound side, you would want a reach rate to be 15, 20, 30%, something along those lines. The qualifying rate, it should be in the perfect world, it should be 50%, right? Maybe it's just 30, right? That's fine. But if it's like single digit, you have a problem.
Yeah.
And then once you look at the qualified leads and qualified opportunities, you should have a high closing rate, right? If you can only close 5% of your highly qualified leads, that means you don't have a good sales process. You're not good at selling.
Yeah.
that's the way of breaking it down. So typically, if you can't really talk to them, communicate with them, reach them, and if once you've communicated or reached them, it turns out that all of them have the wrong idea about your product or are not capable of getting value out of it currently, then you have a lead quality issue.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. That definitely answers the question. All right, so we have these leads, we're reaching out to them. Some people don't respond. Some people respond with maybes. How important is the follow-up? Because a lot of times it's easy just to kind of let it be. You did your thing, you sent the email, you made the call. Let's just, let sleeping babies sleep. So tell me about the follow-up.
So it's a great question. So I'll give you two answers. One, on a more, again, philosophical point, and this is not just follow-up for business B2B leads. This is follow-up for life, for anything you do. I have a simple philosophy when it comes to follow-up. I never, ever, ever stop until I get a result, right? I'm very binary. Yes, no is all good, but if I don't hear back, if I had a positive interaction, right? This is important. Not if I cold email you, right? Not if you've never heard from me. But if we actually talked and you say, this sounds interesting, send me an email, and I send you an email and you don't reply to me, I will follow up indefinitely.
That's awesome.
and here's the simple reason. Most people will stop following up and they will make up a story why the other person stopped responding to them. Oh, they don't want this anymore. They didn't like me. They don't like my shoes, my hair. They think we're stupid or ugly. They'll make up some story in their mind, and because they don't want to they feel rejected now, and they don't want to be annoying, they just stop communicating. Yeah. I'm not in the mind reading business, and my assumption, my baseline assumption, all of this is people are busy and I'm not the most important thing in their universe. So I'll keep following up until I found the right timing where they actually have time to respond, right? And they can at any time tell me to fuck off and stop emailing
and that's
them,
a result.
I'll stop.
Now you're
that's
done.
A result, right? I'm cool with that. I'll leave you alone, right? But if you talk to me and now you ignore me or you're not replying, I'm not going to make up a story why and feel rejected and I'm going to keep following up. I tell this story all the time where we follow up in the early days when we were raising a seed round with one billionaire investor that I had to follow up over 40 times to get a reply. And this was somebody that was introduced to me from another investor. He initially replied and said, yes, I want to meet up with you guys. I said, awesome. Tuesday or Thursday, this or that time, what works? Didn't hear from him. Follow up again, didn't hear. Follow up again. And after more than 40 follow-ups, you know what his reply was?
What's that?
Hey, Steli, thank you so much for following up and following through on this. I had a big crisis. I had to leave the country. There were some big things going on. Can you show up tomorrow at 1 p.m. in our office and chat?
If you had made up a story, it would be he thought about it and didn't like you guys after he slept on it.
Exactly.
The reality was very different.
Very different. And I tell this story every single day. And at this point, I've taught this so many times that almost, every day I get somebody emailing me, telling me, Steli, I followed your follow-up advice, and I just closed the deal after the 23rd follow-up. Here's the reply. The person was like, thanks for following up. We had a big change. And 9 out of 10 times people just say, hey, I got busy with something else.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
thanks
great.
for following up. And and then some people tell me, but what if somebody's really angry and annoyed at you? Well, listen. I'm not in the, being popular. Being popular is nice, and I want to be as loved as anybody else wants to be loved. But that's not my core, focus in life. I'd rather have 3 new customers that love me and 7 people be annoyed by me than having 10 people that are feeling equally indifferent about me and don't care, right? I need to optimize for wins and not optimize to not lose and not annoy someone. So once in a while, somebody's annoyed, so be it. But honestly, following this strategy for many years now, I had somebody tell me, no, this is not interesting, like after a number of follow-ups. But nobody ever got really angry at this because they know they could have replied at any point telling me what the deal is. The important thing here is don't be needy. Don't tell people, why haven't you replied? I get this. Once in a while, somebody sends me an email, and then 3 hours later, they send me a complaint email that I haven't replied yet. Wow. All right. This is the surest way for me to not want to do business with you, right?
Yeah.
Just stay, after 40 emails, what my email was, the follow-up email was, hey, another beautiful day in paradise. Here's some recent press about our company. Can you do this Thursday at 1 p.m.?
Filled with confidence and momentum and just like it was the first interaction.
Just like it was the first email. I don't want to make you feel bad that you haven't replied to me. I don't want to seem needy. Yeah. Just clean, cut, short, simple. It works. It's a very, very powerful thing. If you only take this away from the interview, you'll get results, investments, money, customers that you never think possible.
That is awesome.
Just follow up when others don't.
That is awesome. All right, let's talk about Close.io. You're so in the sales business that you literally created the product. You created the software as a service sales product to keep track of all these things we've been talking about, to keep track of the leads, to keep track of the follow-up, to keep track of who talked to who and what they say and how they say it. But I want to hear it from you. What is Close.io?
That's a great question. So we started the business as Elastic Sales, and Elastic Sales was an outsourced service to help startups develop a sales model and scale that sales model. And in the process, we worked with over 200 venture-backed startups in Silicon Valley. We were kind of their secret sales team, right? And we built this massive amount of salespeople, sales operations, doing sales for all these different companies. From day one, we knew that we wanted to scale this with software, and we hated the CRMs that were out there, just selfishly didn't like any of that software and didn't want to use it for hours and hours every day. So we thought, let's build something for ourselves as a secret sauce to outperform and outcompete everybody out there. That's how we started building Close.io. And then eventually the software got so good that we got outside demand. Our customers wanted to buy the software, not just the services. And eventually the software grew so fast that we decided to fully focus on it. And that's what we're doing today. Close.io is really based on a few simple premises. Number one, sales at its core is communication, right? I said results-driven communication. So as a result of that, if we believe that sales at its core is communication, sales software needs to be communication software. So we build a CRM that had communication at its core. So in Close.io, you can call and make calls and receive calls right out of the app. When you see a lead, you click the phone number, it calls it in the system, it automatically records it, everything is tracked.
Yeah, let's make sure we know what you mean by that, because I think people assume you mean, it opens up Skype or it opens up Google Hangout. It actually calls within the software. So it's tracking all the stuff about the call without having to, pull it in from some API or something. It's in there.
Exactly. It's in there. We assign you a phone number in whatever region you want around the world, internationally. You click somebody and the calling system is within the software. We have our own VoIP system within the software, right? So you can make and receive calls, and all email communications automatically tracked. So any email you send or received with a prospect, the moment a lead is in Close.io, the history is automatically displayed in a nice timeline view, and all future communication email automatically tracked. You don't have to do this manually. You don't have to BCC your CRM or do any crazy things like that. You set up the system, and the software takes care of everything else. So
you were trying to minimize data entry. I mean, that was the heart of it, right?
Those are the two things. A, we wanted you to be better at communicate more, communicate better. And then secondly, we wanted to eliminate manual data entry because it both sucks, and salespeople, and I speak as a salesperson myself, suck at it as a result of it, right?
What are you doing?
Hey, we've seen so many CRM systems, and if you look at the data, you go, holy fuck, what is this? Right? Because people find all these shortcuts, and then when they leave the company, the next person that's taking over has no idea what all this trash data is. So we knew we didn't want humans to do manual data entry, and that's not the salesperson's job. The salesperson's job should be to go out there and close deals and make sales, not feeding a database with information. Software should do that. So we built a system that was focused on communication, that eliminated manual data entry, and as a result, empowered salespeople to do their job better. And that's really what Close.io is at its core.
And I would encourage people to go to the Close.io website, close.io, and watch the video. Watch the intro video that walks you through it, especially if you're an Arrested Development fan. I watched it and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm such a Arrested Development nerd. So I enjoyed the video. So go to close.io, check out the video, because it's actually impressive. I mean, you're watching it and you're thinking, all right, it's sales software. Like, I'm not going to be inspired when this is over. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, a couple minutes into watching somebody show me how to use sales software. And I'm like, all right, I want to keep watching. This is like, it's doing things I didn't expect it to be able to do. So it really is cool software. It's on my to-do list to look into it further and maybe even start using it. Because, what I'm using right now, I'm not going to tell you. It's a joke. So anyway, all right.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, for sure. And it's reasonably priced. I mean, it's small, medium business, they can afford it. It's not some crazy Salesforce trying to take all my money kind of thing. All right. Tell me, how have you used sales to grow Close.io? I have to ask that question because I want to see that you're using this stuff, that you're doing the thing that you're preaching. Because if you're not using it, I got red flags. How are you using sales?
Well, it's at the core of everything we do. Now, with Close.io, we actually, at this point, are fully focused on inbound sales, right? So what that means is we have a fairly successful content strategy. We teach a lot, and we get a lot of traffic and a lot of signups and trials as an effect of that, as a result of that. And what we do with those signups is both on the email and on the calling side, we communicate with every single trial multiple times during a 14-day free trial. So you will get a significant amount of email from us during 14 days. We'll make sure we'll over-communicate with you. And we'll tell you the story of our company. We'll give you tips. We'll share sales tactics. We'll give you as much valuable content as possible. And it's going to come from multiple people on the team, right? Not from any kind of info at or sales at email addresses. No, it comes from, from me personally and welcome you as the founder on the platform. It will come from people on the team. So we stimulate our trials and our inbound leads to communicate with us via email. But we also call them. In many cases, we'll call you within 5 minutes of sign up to make sure that our reach rate is really high. We'll welcome you on the platform and qualify you right there and then. We do lots and lots of sales calls, lots of sales demos, and ultimately, when we close you as a customer and you're a successful customer, we go after referrals. We go after developing that relationship further. But really, sales and communicating to our customers at the core of everything we do. So we do an incredible amount of inbound and inside sales to our inbound leads through email and calling.
Yeah. No, that's awesome to hear. All right, this is a question I've started asking people, and the response is always so fun. I just keep asking it. After this interview, I'm assuming you're going to be working on something to do with Close.io. What are you working on? Is it a meeting? Is it going for a walk and calling a co-founder to talk through something? Like, what are you working on as soon as this interview's over?
That's a good question. It's a weird answer. I don't know. Maybe it's not. But
it's funny. A lot of the answers are just random, so it's good. I like random.
This is not. I was debating in my head because it both sounds very cliche, but then it's also something that I don't do every day. So I'm actually going to be calling customers and leads today. So take it for whatever it's worth. But I myself as the kind of founder, CEO, I do lots of the marketing side of things and then managing the team and doing lots of other things. So I'm not as involved in sales as I'd like to. And what happens is there's this tension, that I go out of the sales process a lot, and focus more on other projects, and then I come back to it. And now kind of the beginning of the year is a time where I come back to it and I'm like, I actually want to call the new trials and welcome them to the platform. I actually want to call some of the more recent customers that converted themselves without us talking to them, some of the smaller customers, and ask them why they did that and how they found out about us, and just have some personal conversations with people. Because it's been, probably a bunch of weeks that I had myself on the phone talking to customers. So that's something I wanted to do this week, and it's something on my to-do list for today.
That's a perfect to-do item for an interview like this.
Yes, right, exactly.
This is the last question I ask everybody. What is the best advice that you have for any startup that's trying to grow? I mean, this whole interview was great advice for a startup trying to grow. But, pick out something. Maybe something you already said, maybe something new. What's your best advice for a startup trying to grow?
Talk to your customers. Really, at the core, and it's so surprising, at the core, the best advice is always the advice that's not new or brilliant or groundbreaking. The best advice is always something that you're like, I already know that. Tell me something else, right? I want to get healthy. Well, eat broccoli and work out. Well, yeah, but tell me something else. Well, that something else is probably not optimal advice, right? The hard thing is really not the what to do. The hard thing is to do it and to overcome your fears, overcome your habits, overcome, your comfort zone. That's the emotional part I find much more challenging than the actual tactical part, which is simple. But at the core, only good things will come, and only ideas and opportunities for growth will come if you talk to more customers. Talk to your customers more frequently, more intimately. Only good things can happen.
That is great advice to end on. Steli, thank you so much for coming on Growth Hacker TV.
Hey, thank you so much, my man.